Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Let's take another look here at Bitcoin, see what's going on. Wow, nice little 2.5, almost 3% pump here from Bitcoin on the day. Doing very well, broke through its key level resistance at 70,000. I wouldn't say it was like an amazing resistance, but that solid round number is generally going to be construed as an area of retracement. We didn't see any retracement, we just saw it blaze straight through, and then FOMO kicked in with the majority of altcoins just taking off. Right? So this is good and bad depending on how you look at it. I don't like these kind of markets when everything just gets completely euphoric and people just start getting kind of nonsensical with just pumping money into coins. There's going to be an inevitability of the price pulling back at some point. Is it going to be right now? Probably not. We have a lot of strength here in the market, and I would not recommend shorting at this exact moment. Granted, we have a couple of shorts open. One's close to break even, one is a little in the red. I'm not super concerned with that because they were built to sustain a pump like this because we were expecting Bitcoin to continue higher. However, the dilemma that you run into in situations like these is that a lot of people FOMO in and just get sort of like really crazy, and the price action gets out of control. So just be mindful. That's kind of starting to happen now, breaking through somewhat of a resistance range. We're like $2,000 away from our all-time high. This is one of those unique situations in the market that you want to treat with respect and not get too crazy with high leverage. That's, I would say, the main foundation. But if we look at the liquidation on the left-hand side, we can see there's a lot of quite a lot of positions getting entered here, right? People are shorting with stop losses as high as about 74K, which makes sense. That 74,000 level is sensible to me because that's the more recent high. I think it's what, 73,800, somewhere in that range. We'll double check the all-time high here, but basically 74K is that resistance range, so we can presume that those shorts are going to be safe for the moment. And again, you kind of zoom out a little bit here, you can see probably the largest amount of positions with liquidation rather at that level, just above 74K. So between now and then, I think the price could continue just to jump up and down between 70 to 74,000. It's literally just a crapshoot at this point. We're going to draw out some fib levels, kind of see what we could anticipate for moving forward. But I do want to kind of warn you here too. Some folks put too much emphasis on fib levels. While it's a very important part of trading, like Elliott Wave, for example, that's like literally the only premise to how Elliott Wave works is based on fib levels, which they can be beneficial, right? The retracement is the standard, patterns in trading. But patterns don't always repeat themselves, and it's kind of foolhardy to put way too much emphasis on one thing. So while I do love and appreciate fib levels, it's an important part of what I do. When prices like this start hitting all-time highs or getting, reclaiming highs, local highs, things can get kind of crazy and out of control in a good way. But more importantly, those levels don't always, it's more guesswork than it would be actual technical analysis, right? And there's going to be times when you're right about guessing and it works out. But for the most part, overextensions and fib levels, they work fairly well together. So we'll look at that. But I just want to kind of preface and say, hey, be careful using that. These are things I use daily, and I can tell you it's just one of those things you just want to be kind of careful about and not just be ridiculous and think that we're going to 100,000 tomorrow because you see an overextension or a expansive wave or whatever the hell they're called. Anyways, we take a look here. We can see Delta extremely high right now. This is what I was talking about previously, where we've had capitulation or pullback happen when this occurs. Main reason I say that is because we were up towards of about $8 billion in liquidation Delta. Last time we had that happen, I wish I recorded it or saved it, but generally speaking, you can take my word for it. I look at this every single day. When Bitcoin gets to the $8 to $10 billion in liquidation Delta, the price will eventually pull back. Now, again, I know it's just that natural eventuality of prices pulling back. That's normal. And right now, we may not even see that considering how euphoric the market is too. A lot of people are just flowing money in. However, the truth is when we sustain that amount of leveraged longs for too long, we have too many longs in the market, market makers will eventually correct that behavior, okay? So just know we're kind of in the early phases here. We may not see this today, but I'm sure in the next day or two, we will see some type of pullback. My money is on 70,000, just as a round number, being that previous, like that consistent number in trading. We can take a look here. we see the most amount of local open interest is about 69,800. So a lot of folks got in just before the price broke out. With good reason, the price continued to retest that resistance and inevitably broke through. Okay, so that makes sense as to where we're seeing here and what we're seeing so far. So let's go ahead and reverse these fibs, and I'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about here when you hit reverse on the current fib levels. Because keep in mind this level here, 70,300, that was yesterday's high. And I haven't updated our fib levels yet today because the daily candlestick hasn't closed yet. You don't want to chase fib levels. In most cases, you don't. So this is basically from the local low to the local high. All right, and we just simply reversed it, showing us here that 71,600 and or 72,300 are those two key fib levels. Specifically 73,300, I'm rounding up a little bit. That 1.618 fib level, that's the more common retracement area where you're going to find the most amount of resistance. So my money is on the price. If it continues to run, we shouldn't see anything further than 73K. We should probably pull back at that point. Again, to preface, this is all strictly hypothetical, mostly guesswork when we get into situations like this. We could look back a little bit further and kind of see, daily candlestick closures. Those are probably a little bit more reliable. But the truth is there's not really a lot back here. I mean, we can see 71.5 as a potential area that we saw, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 5 or 6 daily candlestick closures in that level. So we'll just go ahead and pay attention to that as well. That could be another area. And then we'll also mark as well here the daily candlestick close at 72K. Okay, it's basically the highest point that we saw. Sorry, I misspoke. That is 73,000 even. Okay, so pretty easy numbers to remember here. We got 72,000 and 73,000 is the next key areas there. So that's just kind of something to be mindful of. Okay, so just some some food for thought, I guess you could say. So we're going to remove those fibs because they pretty much mean very little right now. Taking a look at the RSI, we are testing 70 in the RSI. Breaking free from that, breaking above it, folks, that could be a continuation, a very strong push to the upside, possibly even 74K or higher. So keep in mind, if we keep running right now, there's a good chance it won't stop or slow down. The thing I'm troubled by here is the money flow index being fairly low. That's the MFI should be higher than the RSI in most cases when you have a good push that is sustainable. That's why this leads me to believe this is more like a euphoric situation where there's no selling pressure at all. The market makers are kind of waiting to just sell, sell, sell. But again, there could also be enough volume, which there is. Don't get me wrong, there's more volume. But the overall last 14 days worth of volume, that should be higher than the RSI. But we got a stochastic swing to the upside, money flow index, MACD. Most things are looking pretty good minus the MFI there. And obviously, if you haven't known already, we're above every single moving average, so we're in good shape there too. Okay, so as I've been talking about, Bitcoin has been very bullish the entire time. While we took a short, from 67 to like 65.5K previously, you can work within a range. But the key takeaway that I've been mentioning this whole time if you've been watching is that Bitcoin is still very bullish because we're staying above all moving averages on multiple time frames. Okay, so the daily specifically being above all four, that gives us good confidence knowing that taking a long is going to be much more successful than taking a short. Well, you can still have success shorting, the tighter margin is not really worth it right now. So even though you could successfully short Bitcoin from 72 to 70K, hypothetically that should work. It's not a good condition to do that. We're above every single moving average on the 4-hour time frame more specifically. This is where you can kind of see that obvious continuation, this obvious trend. We look at our RSI on the 4-hour, holy cow, 81. In fact, I looked at this earlier, and the last time we saw 80 plus on the RSI was back in June, like on the 15th. So let's rewind here, just so I can kind of show you what that is. So June 15th is this guy right here. July 15th is what it was. Yeah, it was right here in this range where the price action went parabolic and then consolidated for 2 or 3 days and legged up again. So the reason I'm mentioning that is that when the RSI gets this high, it doesn't mean it's just going to instantly drop because of it. So try not to mistake that. While it should and could, the likelihood of it happening is pretty low. And generally speaking, the common rule of thumb is when the RSI is up over 70 in the 4-hour time frame, you do not short into it. You wait for the the RSI to pull back below 70, and then you secure profits. Because the likelihood of this continuing to run is pretty high. The MFI on the 4-hour time frame tells us a much different story. This is a very bullish situation. And I prefer to take the money flow index in the 4-hour time frame because it's a better, more realistic outlook of the last 2.5 trading days. Because again, it's a 14 candlestick lag. So in that sense here, every single thing is pointing up. There's no reason to consider shorting into this. Okay, even though I know massively overextended, we look at TD sequential. We were overextended leading into that $70,000 range yesterday. Now we're 1, 2, 3, 4 candles. That is 16 hours of overextension that has gone, uncalled, if you will. Yeah, nobody's trying to close or take profit, whatever the case. We are massively overextended, and it doesn't seem logical, but it's going to continue until it doesn't. And there's no real way to anticipate it. I don't care who you are, who you're listening to, who you're watching. It's really just not a sensible situation to try to, first of all, trade against. You don't do that. And then second of all, identifying a turnaround here with so much euphoria and so much momentum in the market, it can be very difficult to gauge. So I guess a simple way to understand it is if you have a long position open, leave it open. To give you perspective, we took some nice profits here from Bitcoin, good 39, I guess you could round up, say 40% in 4 days there on our long from, I think it was the 67,000 range, if I'm not mistaken. So again, leave that open. That's why I'm mentioning that and bringing that up to you, because we'll probably likely hit our fourth and final target, which if I'm not mistaken is close to our all-time high in the 73,000 range. So we're getting close to that already. Either way, don't short this coin. Easy way to understand it. I'm sure it'll pull back and drop super hard. By the time you see this, that's just how the nature of cryptocurrency works. But with all this massive overextension in the market, logic would tell you the price will pull back, but the illogical, emotional trading that's going on right now is something you cannot account for. So be very careful. That's the premise for today. Be careful, even though everything looks all fun and fancy and green. You want to respect the market and absolutely do not short into it, even though I'm sure it'll probably pull back at some point. So those are my 2 cents. I'm going to upload a playout chart here on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Of course, if you're not familiar, be sure to check that out. It looks a little something like this here. And we'll go ahead and take it from there. I appreciate you watching. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thanks so much again for your time. We'll see you next one. Take care.